Almost a month has passed now since the TT finally returned to the roads of the Isle of Man. The dust has settled now, the teams have left, and it's quiet again behind the grandstand here in Douglas. That means it's the perfect time to take a look back at a TT that was much anticipated, that was very welcome by all the fans and the riders, and that came with a lot of light, but sadly also a lot of darkness. So please join me as I take a quick look back at TT 2022. First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for everyone who watched my videos, the guide to the TT, and also especially thank you to all the dozens of people, I lost count seriously, who approached me while I was walking around here at the grandstand. Like I said in the video, I always wear the same stuff when I do TT stuff, so I'm easy to spot. I didn't really think anyone would actually, spot me or say something or stop me, but it turns out, yeah, dozens of people did. I lost count. So thanks for that. I'm really genuinely glad to hear that you like the videos that I did, that especially the visitor's guide was actually useful to people, that it gave you some information and made you enjoy the event more. So yeah, first and foremost, thank you for everyone who watched the videos and for everyone who stopped me and said hello. It means a lot to me. It makes it all worthwhile. I'm not really making money with any of these videos. Some of them of course are monetized, but if you count in the time and the equipment and whatnot, this is not about money. This is just about the love of the event, and seeing that people actually enjoy what I do or that it's useful is great. So thanks for that. I don't want to use this video to comment on any individual race results or rider performances, because you as TT fans will of course have followed the action when it unfolded, either live here on location or online. Rather, what I want to do with this video is, and because it's been about 3 weeks now since the TT passed, I want to have a look back, taking into account all the additional information that we have received since the event finished. Basically, there's been a lot of news reports, and there's been lots of stories, and you talk to people and you sort of reflect and process and digest what happened. And that's what I want to do with this video. Just take a very honest and frank look back at an event that everyone was happy, or most people were happy to see back, that had plenty of the good, the bad and the ugly in it. And I think that we can now take an informed look back on, and yeah, basically look at all those things and hopefully give you a good bit of honest feedback from someone who doesn't work for the government or anyone, but someone who's followed the TT for 20 years and who loves it, as you know from my videos, and who hopes it continues for a long time. So yeah, please join me as we take a look back at the good and the bad bits of TT 2022. So let's start with TT Plus, which no doubt was the biggest change in the way the TT is covered in the media ever since the TT started. For the first time ever this year was the TT broadcasted and streamed live around the world through an online streaming service called TT Plus. I know on the very first day when they launched it, there were some issues in the morning with video not working. As someone who has worked in product development myself a bit, I can tell you that's completely normal for such a complicated and complex project. It must have been an absolute nightmare for the people behind it, but they did a great job because it was fixed in no time. And honestly, all the feedback I've received since then was outright through the bank, was great. People loved it. I spoke to people here, friends in Germany who used it to watch it live in HD, and all the feedback was really positive. And $14.99 I still think is fantastic value for money for 2 weeks of live coverage of the races. So well done to the team behind it. Great success story there. So since the TT, the team behind TT Plus has also sent out a press release with some figures regarding the service, which may be of interest to you. And in total, over 130,000 people signed up for TT Plus for the free version of it. Apparently they now have users in 185 countries. And of the 130,000 who signed up, 57,000 forked out $14.99 for the live subscription, which means they made close to $1 million, £1 million, so that's 800 something thousand pounds. And according to the people behind the service, it was actually profitable as a result, which for a first ever attempt, and for something that was probably more or less government run, that's pretty impressive. So yeah, well done to everyone involved. I totally loved the coverage. It was really great. And I also love how TT Plus and this live streaming feature now in HD. By the way, the network on the island seems to have held up reasonably well. Of course, it went on its ass behind the grandstand. It always does. That's normal if there's thousands of people here, but generally all around the course and so on, it seemed to have held up really, really well, despite thousands of people streaming HD video all the time. But really, what I loved the most was that this adds a next level or another level of enjoyment and information to spectators here on location, not just people all around the world. Of course, it's great for them, they can now watch live. But it's for the people here on the track where I really noticed how it adds another level and a level of information and enjoyment. So what happened is, for example, when I go out during the race, I tend not to watch the race itself. Of course, I take some video of the bikes and whatnot, but I tend to watch more around it and get different angles and watch the spectators and so on. And what I noticed is a lot of the spectators, they stand at the roadside. For example, I was down at Quarter Bridge. People stand there, watch the road, but at the same time they have the phone in their hand in front of them with the live feed, with the HD video. And that is really a wonderful step up from the old little radio in your ear with AM 1368 and an app with a sort of leaderboard that updates once in a while. This is completely next level, and for spectators here it's great because one lap is very long. It's 17 minutes, 18 minutes, depending who your favorite rider is. So your favorite rider goes by and then wait. Now you can follow him all the way around, and you know exactly when the riders come through, when the top guys come through, when others maybe come through. So that's great, and that adds a whole new level to it. The only thing that I heard from fans, and that I would agree with, is worthy of improving, is a way to include more of the riders in the coverage. I know that from when I worked for North One in the past, the guys who had the TT contract before, that was 10 years ago or so. We always only filmed the top 10 guys, and then we changed position, changed the top 10 guys, changed position, and so on. That meant we had 10 camera teams, but because all of us had multiple positions during one race, it looked like we had 30, 40, 50 camera teams. That was one of the tricks we used. There's no need for the guys now to do it because the trackside cameras, of course, they're always there. So there's no need for them to pack up after the top 10. But it seems that the focus of that live stream coverage and of the video coverage and basically the screen time is very much sort of weighted and in favor of the top guys, which is understandable. Everyone wants to see Hickman and Dunlop and so on. But I think what I heard from a lot of the fans trackside, which I totally agree with, and maybe the guys, if you are watching this, the guys behind TT Plus and the Green Light guys, if you can find a way to include people outside the top 10 more, and find a way to give them screen time. And from a product perspective, it's totally possible. I used to do a bit of product development, mobile stuff, and including video and whatnot. Different field, but it's the same thing. And I know exactly how I would do that. I would basically put features in where you can have streams for each rider, or you can just basically track a rider and then go by camera. And so there's ways to do it. So yeah, honestly, the only thing that I heard and that I maybe hope they can improve on TT Plus for next year is a way to feature more riders in it, give everyone more screen time, because there's so many great amateur riders who deserve to be seen, who have fans and family and supporters, and they want to be seen. They are part of the event as much as the big guys. But other than that, yeah, TT Plus, absolutely amazing product. Looking forward to seeing how they can make it even better for next year. And yeah, if you haven't signed up for this year, next year definitely do it. It's going to help the TT to be seen by more people, and it's a really great product, and well done to everyone behind it. And it was a really great success. Wonderful. Of course, we can't look back on TT 2022 without also acknowledging its dark side, and unfortunately it's been a very tragic year as far as injuries and deaths are concerned. A total of 5 riders have lost their lives, namely Mark Purslow, Davy Morgan, Cesar Chanal, Roger Stockton and Bradley Stockton. And every time this happens, it's tragic and it's painful, and it sucks a lot. It hurts in an emotional way, in a physical way. It makes you sick to your stomach. You can feel it in the whole paddock. You can feel it along the circuit. It's just, yeah, it just sucks. Okay, it's painful. Even if you didn't know the rider, it's just, if you love the event, you don't want this to happen. But We all know there are risks to the TT, and this is a complex topic, so I'm going to try and not rush through it, but go through it at a reasonable pace and basically try and split it in two parts. One part is, how does the Isle of Man as a community, as an organizer, deal with this side of the event? And the second part is sort of a suggested etiquette. As always, you can of course ignore everything I say and just say, you know, bugger off, you idiot, I'll do what I want. But it's just from 20 years experience as someone who loves the event very dearly, sort of a suggested etiquette and way of dealing with this as a fan, especially if you're here. So how does the Isle of Man itself as a community and as an organizer, because the Isle of Man government is the organizer of the TT, they underwrite it, they put it on. How do they deal with putting on Death Race 2000 every year? What some people call it, you know, how is that responsible that a government puts on an event where on a regular basis people are injured and killed? And the fact is that everyone knows there are risks to the TT. I'm of the opinion the Isle of Man government should continue to put the TT on and enable people to take part, and they are correct in doing so. But they should of course do whatever they can to make the event as safe as it can be. It will never be fully safe. I mean, as you can see here, instead of gravel traps we have stone walls, and instead of catch fences we have trees and road signs. So there's a limit to how safe you can make it. But I think the government is, you know, correct in putting it on, and the only people who could really cancel TT if you want, could really say stop, enough is enough, are the riders. Of course there's an argument to be made. There's this famous quote that always comes out every time. Sometimes you need to protect people from themselves, and there's some validity to that, and maybe the government can do more in making the event safe. I mean, the bikes have gotten very fast since 1907, certainly. So maybe there are things they can do, but generally, is it something that the island just brushes off that people die? That is, oh, it happens, whatever. No, I don't think it is. Everyone on the island, certainly the people who like the TT, they know it's a sad reality, the risk is a sad reality, but we also know, we're not kidding ourselves, that the danger is part of the appeal for the riders and for the spectators. Okay, it's what makes this event so unique. If this was just a short circuit event somewhere, like I said loads of times before, nobody would come. It wouldn't be the same thing. So the fact that it is so unique, I think that, you know, makes it out. And every time there is an incident, there's a few things that happen, predictably, like clockwork. Number one is, there's one sentence you will see and hear a lot, and that sentence is, he died doing what he loved. Every time there's a fatality, you will hear the sentence. Sometimes you will hear it directly from the people involved. Sometimes you will hear it, or more often you will probably hear it from people saying that other people say it, just like I'm saying it now. But it's a valid thing that's being said. You could say it's a valid thing to say in general, because the riders who come here, you know, they do love riding here. They do it because they love it. They don't do it for the money. It's not a money event. And it is something that you will also find written on some of the memorial plaques down at the memorial wall. You know, died chasing his dreams and things like that. So that's one thing you will always hear. Then after every fatality, especially in a year as tragic as this year, where we had, I think, the second highest death toll in quite a while, certainly since the early 80s, is you will hear the usual arguments break out. So there will always be the opponents of the TT, of which there are quite a few. Like I said in other parts, other videos, not everyone on the Isle of Man loves the TT. There are a fair few opponents to it. They will come out. They will say it's time for the government to, you know, finally shut this down or limit the bikes, get rid of the sidecars. That was one that came out this year. A call for, you know, sidecars to be scrapped and whatnot. That always happens. That is predictable. And then on the other side, you get the people who are for the TT, and they will always say, well, it's, you know, more people die mountain climbing than die racing at the TT. And both sides have validity to their arguments. One good thing, there were a few quite balanced articles out in the media after this TT. I will link to them in the description. That make very balanced arguments between, you know, is it responsible to put this on in this day and age, and should we tell people what to do and how to live their lives? And someone called the TT the Everest of motorsport, and I kind of find that a fitting comparison, because that's what it is. It's extreme, it's unique, it's a challenge a lot of people want to do, and I think probably more people died on Everest than here. So should the government tell people to race here or not? No, as long as there's support, I think, from the racers, they should put it on. They should make it as safe as they can, and they should offer good support. I think one area where there is scope for the government to do more is in support when the worst comes to the worst. Of course, there is insurance in place. All riders are insured, and the government underwrites it all. So there is, insurance for medical bills and whatnot, but it's not as comprehensive, as I understand it, as it should be. And what happens every time there is a crash, or especially a fatality, you will see fundraisers pop up, because very often the person who died was earning money for the family, or they ran a business, or suddenly that family is not only dealing with a lot of grief, but they're also dealing with a severe financial impact. And you see a lot of fundraisers always pop up. And I think there's scope for the government to do more. What you also, or us as fans, can do is support organizations like the TT Riders Association. I did a video about the 30th milestone, I'll link to it. That's what they do. They look after injured riders, and they look after the families of those who unfortunately lost their lives here. And I think we as fans, we can do more there as well. We can support people like the TT Riders Association, who then in turn support families in their times of need, because all the riders that take part here, they all make the event what it is. If it was just the top 10 guys riding here, nobody would come, because it would be boring. It's all the 100+ riders who come here every year that make the event what it is, and they all deserve our support, not just when they race, but they especially deserve our support and loyalty if something goes wrong in their time of need. We were happy enough to watch them race and revel in the excitement, and it's just fair that we then as supporters also support them when things go wrong, when they need us. So that's something you can do as a fan, I think. Look up the TT Riders Association, I'll link to them. But I think the government could do more there as well when it comes to that. Do we as an island, as a community, just simply brush it aside that people die? No, I don't think we do. The risk is accepted. We all know, nobody's kidding themselves that it's risky and that people die. I know nobody who likes the event likes this, or I don't think any sane person would like this. But yes, it is an accepted part of it. It makes part of the attraction of it, and anyone who says it doesn't is just kidding themselves, okay? But we're not here just brushing it off. I think it can sometimes seem a bit cold and morbid, the way death is dealt with at the TT. For example, during this TT, when the second sidecar crash happened, I was near there, so I didn't see the actual crash, thank God. But I did see the cleanup operation. And if you are sitting at the bottom of Bray Hill and you see that crash happen, so you would have been able to see it because it's at Argo Sleep, and you then see the police come down. Every time you see the police come down, you know it's something bad, because they only come down if there's basically a very serious incident, because it comes a crime scene, or at least something that they have to investigate. So let's say you sit there as a spectator and your first time at the TT, and you see the police come down, you see the ambulance come down, and then afterwards you see the tow truck and the street sweeper and the hearse, and they just put the bodies in, drive them off, clean the street, and it's like, let's race again. I'm going a bit over the top, but you know what I mean, right? That can seem cold-hearted and a bit morbid and a bit wrong. And I don't think they actually did race again on that particular day, which I was kind of relieved, because I'm sure everything was above board, but I've never seen a crash scene cleaned up that quick. That was weird, in a way. I'm sure it was all correct, but it felt weird. I think they raced the next day then, and I wasn't really in the mood to watch the races then anyway. That was it was a real damper to the whole thing. But yeah, I can understand how that can look to a fan, especially someone who is not used to that kind of thing. It's like, okay, did they just basically clean off the dead and race again? And essentially, yes, that's what they do. And that is a strange part of this event. And there was one very valid argument, without getting too long here, but I have a tendency for this to get long. But, there was someone, so I'm one of the admins on Manx Forums, which is a local forum. So if you're not on Facebook, you're usually on Manx Forums over here. You can guess my username, it's not very hard to guess. And someone on there, there's a big TT thread on there, which, you know, all sorts of for and against, over hundreds of pages, we're arguing all the time. Usually I'm for it. And one of the people on there is a doctor who had, you know, some sort of insights. I'm not going to say who, but he's on there and he's quite open that he's a doctor. Everyone knows he is. And he said something that stuck with me a little bit. And that is, if people saw more or were more aware of the actual, you know, devastating physical impact that these crashes have, and that the scene they basically cause, the physical scene, what happens to the human body when it hits a wall at 150 miles an hour, they would probably not be so supportive of the event anymore. And I think that is a very valid argument. And I think we need to acknowledge that, and we need to also do more for the marshals and the first responders, you know, who deal with the incidents, as well as those who are injured and killed, and their relatives and their, you know, the people affected by it. So one strange thing that happened this year, of course, was that 2 sidecars crashed in the exact same spot, and I mean the exact same spot. They both crashed on August Leap, and they, to the inch exactly, hit the same post at the side of the road. And that is, never seen anything like that. That is very weird. That road was re-tarmacked just before TT, and I'm sure there will be an investigation to see, you know, what may have been the root cause of that. Never seen anything like that. And yeah, that was unusual. So every incident, of course, is investigated to find out what happened. So that's that part. You know, as an island, as a community, we do know that there's a risk. Every time there is an incident, there's arguments for and against. Nobody who likes the event, who lives here, who's right in the head, wants anyone to get hurt. Nobody comes here to get injured or killed. People come here to, you know, enjoy a unique challenge, and the spectators come here to watch that unique challenge. But yes, it is an acknowledged part of the event that people get injured and killed, and it can seem a bit strange and morbid to outsiders how it is dealt with, but it is the reality of the event, okay? And there's no sugarcoating it. It's, you know, when people die, that's what happens, and the racing goes on, and that is a big difference to, you know, many other races in the world, of course. So that's that part. Now then, the second part I quickly want to cover is a sort of suggested etiquette when it comes to you as a fan, as a spectator. If you're here and you are unfortunate enough to witness an incident, and you're especially unfortunate enough to catch it on video, as you know, most of us do these days, we all have a phone, and you know, there's a good chance if something happens, someone got it on video. So again, you can of course completely ignore me on this, but this is what I would suggest to you, and I'm basing this on the policy, the rules we had to follow when I worked for North One a few years ago, when we filmed the TT, when I was part of a camera team out on the track. We got very strict instructions. The instructions are quite simple. 2 types of incidents as far as filming them is concerned. Number 1 is a minor incident. For example, you come down you know, into Governor's Dip, a rider comes off there or gets it wrong, or at Quarter Bridge gets the brake point wrong, ends up on his ass. The only thing that is injured is his pride. That's perfectly fair to film and share, and in fact our instructions were, if it's a minor incident, you know, if you can see the riders okay, then film it, mark it on the disc, so the editor later knows there's something worth, you know, putting in the program. And that's what we used to do. So for example, we filmed Keith Amos's crash at Union Mills, very slow speed crash, and you know, he slid past us, walked straight into the ambulance. We marked it on the disc. It was clear it was not a fatality, not a, you know, serious crash per se at the time. So we marked it on the disc, we sent the disc to the edit, and they put it in the program. So if you as a spectator at the side of the road and you film something like that, so, or retirement, or you know, a minor spill, and that's, I would say is fair game. You know, share it on your Twitter, Facebook, stick it on YouTube, enjoy the views and the shares and the likes and the social credit you get with that. The second part, or the second category of incident, was serious incidents. So they told us very clearly, if you are filming a serious incident, and at the TT it's quite easy. You know, there is no gray area, okay? You know when it's serious and you know when it's not. You know, if the guy gets up and it's fine, it's not. If he doesn't get up, it's serious. So if we filmed something very serious, where we knew it was serious or fatal, or we could at least tell it's likely fatal, stop filming. That was the clear instruction we had. Of course, there's every chance if you're out filming that you will catch an incident. You know, you're not going to switch off before, right? You're going to capture it on film. If you do that, because these crashes, they would happen so quickly, and if afterwards you check your footage and you find that unfortunately you caught a fatal or serious accident on camera, please, for the love of Christ, do not share it. Do not put it on social media. Do not send it to your friends. Keep it on your phone to yourself. Don't necessarily delete it, because especially if it's a fatal, for example, police and organizers will usually ask for footage. Certainly the official footage, they have to hand it over. Strangely, there was a call for that to happen by the police this year, so it seems someone hasn't handed their footage over from the Argo Sleep crash. But yeah, if there is a fatal or a very serious incident, the police will, you know, approach people on location. So if you are on location, so rule one really, if you film something that you can tell is very serious or fatal, and you caught it on camera, do not share it, but don't delete it, keep it. And it's, for example, it's quite normal that you may want to get away from the scene. A couple of German friends of mine, they were unfortunately down at Argo Sleep when the first sidecar crash happened. And they just basically legged it out of there, which is completely understandable. They were in shock and they were just, you know, we want to get out of here, out of here. And that's totally understandable. So if you are in the unfortunate position where you catch something very serious, and then later, you know, you get back to your hotel, the shock, the adrenaline goes down, and you go for your phone and you see you caught the crash on camera, call the police, say, hey, I was there and there at the incident, I caught it on video. They will send someone out and they will get that footage from you because they need it for the investigation. So if you catch it, you know, don't share it, but don't delete it. Tell the organizers. If you're still on location, you know, tell a marshal, tell a police officer. It's like, hey, I caught the footage. I would like to give that to you in case you need it, because they will very likely need it to investigate what happened. But whatever you do, please do not share serious incidents and fatal incidents. I know there are some people who revel in doing that and sharing that on Facebook. There's one particular local guy who doesn't like me, and the feeling is very mutual. I don't like him because he revels in that kind of footage, and he loves to put up compilations of crashes and people getting hurt, all for his YouTube glory, and I think that's just sick. But yeah, you get people like that who are a bit wrong in the head. And you know, the reason why I would really ask you not to share serious crashes, and certainly not fatalities on YouTube or social media, is not because it gives the event you know, a bad reputation or damages the TT or something like that. I don't care about that part of it. It's because it's not fair towards the family of that rider, okay? Point A, if you share something immediately after it happened, there's a really good chance, because it spreads so fast these days, that the family finds out from Twitter or Facebook that their husband, their dad, their loved one died, and that should not happen. Okay, there's a procedure, there's a process in place that has to be followed, and we are all, as a community, responsible of enabling this process and this procedure and helping it to go. And that process is very clear that the organizers deal with the incident. The organizers contact the relatives and inform them of an injury or a death. The family should hear from them first. The family should never ever hear from social media, from YouTube, from Facebook, or for some idiot who needs the cred on Twitter. That's just wrong, okay? Let the process take its course. And then when the official announcement is out, I would still, even if it's only an injury, I wouldn't share it, because it just doesn't feel right. Certainly I would never ever share fatalities on video or on YouTube or somewhere, because it's just wrong. There are people who now do it on Facebook, and I hate it. But yeah, that's, you know, one of the things. So if you are unlucky enough to catch something serious on video, share with the organizers first. Do not share it, you know, online. Let them deal with it. And please, if you can, don't upload it on YouTube or try and profit from it somehow, because it's not fair towards the relatives of the rider. It's not about the event, it's not about that, it's about the people, the human lives involved, and you're causing a lot of damage there. And I know you can of course ignore me with this, but I just hope you kind of take that on board. So that's probably as much as I can cover about the dark side of the TT. Yes, we're aware there are risks. People know there are injuries and deaths. Nobody wants it to happen, but it's part of the event. It is dealt with in a very unique way that is different to other events, and that is disturbing for some people, and I think we should acknowledge that. The final thing I would like to see is that we also don't hide this dark side of the event the way we do at the moment. It feels like we are hiding it very much, in that it's never really mentioned very much. Of course, there's the usual announcement after there's a death, and the new media team this year, some of the announcement, the way they were worded was really weird. Not just I picked, other people picked up on that as well. That was, maybe they want to review their wording on that, because it was just, the way they worded it was just weird. Okay, leave it at that. But what I would like to see is that we don't hide this part of the event as much as we do. For example, I bet not all of you, or very few of you, actually know that there is a memorial wall to riders who died during the races, and it's right next to the start line. You just can't see it because it's in Douglas Cemetery. It's across, it's hidden behind hedges next to the start line house. But it's there. And there's just a tiny, if you go into the main cemetery entrance, there's just a tiny little sign pointing in its direction. And that's, if you don't know where it is, there's a good chance you'd never see it. But it's something I think that, more people should see and acknowledge. I appreciate it's not a nice topic. It's not as sexy as Peter Hickman putting down another lap record, but it's a part of the event, and we owe it to the riders to remember them and to not hide this part of the races, and to what we can to support those left behind. So if you've never been to the memorial wall, I strongly suggest next time you're over, walk into the main cemetery gates, turn right, and it's right at the end. I don't think it has all the riders on there, but certainly the ones from this year haven't been added. But it is a very quiet place that's worth visiting, just for quiet reflection. And you do have people, putting flowers on it and things. And I would like us to sort of acknowledge that side of the event a little more, in that we're not hiding it, and that we are doing more for people who are left behind by, for example, 38th Milestone, support the TT Riders Association, and other organizations that help riders in the times of needs. That's, I think, what we can do as fans. But as an organization, I think the TT should continue. This is my personal opinion, okay? But I think it should continue as long as the riders are willing to ride. The organizers should try and make it as safe as they can. And maybe the bikes have gotten too fast. There's actually one final point, a promised final point, because we're going, 25 minutes for this segment, crazy, okay. And the final point is, and I think that's something that also a lot of riders share the opinion, and that's we have to get away maybe from this lap record fetishism that is very much happening. There's every year we need to see a faster one and a faster one. 2007 we had 130 McGuinness, and they even changed the course. They changed 2 corners on the course for road safety reasons. They changed them. They changed Brandish and Windy Corner. Officially for road safety reasons. They made them wider so McGuinness gets his 130-mile-an-hour lap. And there's always this lap record fetishism, and I don't think that's healthy. There's no need to go faster and faster and faster, because at some point even the best rider, can't go any faster and is pushing it too hard, and it becomes just an impossible scenario. So maybe that's something they could, the media is certainly has a part to play here. The organizers, media, who keep pushing for this. Oh, he's faster. Stop doing that. Okay, it's bullshit. It's rubbish. It's bad. Make sure the riders come back safely, and that's the only thing that matters. Okay, so maybe let's finish off with this. I think the main thing we as everyone, as a community, as organizers, as fans, as people involved with the TT, can do is to make it our absolute priority in everything we do the most important thing of all the TT to make sure that all riders always return safely after the race. That all of them are able to cross that finish line, walk down back into the paddock, hug their loved ones, leave the island with all their limbs intact. That should be our joint goal. And I think if we work towards that, and if we are more supportive towards those who unfortunately were negatively affected by the TT, then I think we can strike a balance where we can still allow people to take the risks that they want to take, but we can do it in a way where we can say, okay, we do as much as we can to support them, and we are also there for them when it goes wrong. And that way, this Everest of motorsport will hopefully continue for many years to come, and people will be able to take risks if they wish to do so. And we as a community can support them in that endeavor. I don't think even after 20 years of TT I will ever understand what really makes them tick. You have to be a racer, you have to be, in my opinion, you have to grow up with that mindset, you have to be a rider to understand it. And I respect the decisions to want to ride here, and I hope long may the TT continue. But let's be compassionate, let's not be dickheads when it comes to sharing footage or rumors, because if you do that, you're a dickhead. And let's do what we can to support it and make it safer. But that's as much as I think I can say about the dark side of the TT. And yeah, don't turn a blind eye. Acknowledge those who paid the ultimate price, and help us to make the TT safer so it can continue in future. One topic we of course have to look at when it comes to TT 2022 is policing. And this also played a pretty big part in the TT Visitors Guide video that I did before TT. In that, I covered a lot of the things like what to expect when you come here in terms of how to ride and drive and no speed limit, all that kind of thing. And I even managed to get Sergeant Michael Taylor on the video so he could hear straight from the source what to expect during TT, because he of course is the boss of the Roads Policing Unit. And he was quite, honest and open about what their tactic will be, and he was very clear on video that they would be robust but fair, and that's what they were, because they genuinely want people to come here and have a good time, and they also want people to leave again with good memories and all their limbs intact, like I said in the previous video. So the headline figure really for the whole policing of the TT is a really great figure, and it's the number 0. Because there were 0 fatalities on open roads during TT 2022. That means there were 0 deaths by visitors or locals driving or riding on the Isle of Man's roads, open roads outside of racing. And that is a fantastic figure, and that is brilliant news, because it's by far not a given. Like I mentioned many times before, the island's roads are dangerous, and people often get hurt here and die, and not just racers. So to see that there were 0 fatalities on open roads is fantastic news. It's wonderful news. It's a testament to all the hard work that went into this by everyone. And it's also a testament, of course, to you, the visitors who came here and who rode within your limits and who were sensible and who let their hair down in the areas where you're allowed to do it, and you did so safely. So thank you for that. It's important that we have good news like this if the TT is to have a sustainable future. Of course, wherever there are thousands of bikes and cars, there will be accidents, or RTCs as the police calls them, road traffic collisions. And there were, I believe, if I remember it correctly, again, 34 of them, which, if you think about it, doesn't sound that many. And indeed, there were fewer RTCs or collisions that's 12 fewer than in the 5-year average. So there were 34 crashes, and those were fewer than in previous TTs, or the average in previous TTs. So again, a good news figure, and again a testament to the hard work that went into everything and to the great conduct of the visitors. I know what some of you will now say. Frank, you're spouting government BS. The only reason there were so few crashes and no fatalities was because they put bloody temporary speed limits everywhere. And you know it. Yes, you're right. They did put it in a lot of temporary speed limits. I noticed that too. I don't recall there being a 50 limit from Douglas to Ramsey, for example, during TT. And it's quite clear what they did. They funneled everything, the whole visitor traffic and all the excitement into speed, to the mountain road, to that one stretch of road, that one-way road from Ramsey to Douglas. And Some people, of course, weren't happy with that, because roads that maybe if you're a repeat visitor, you were used to be able to go fast in the past, you were now not able to, because they had 50 limits on them. However, and I'm speaking here as someone who did fight off a national speed limit and who is all in favor of driving fast, I think you have to look at it on balance and from the police's point of view, or from the government's point of view, but particularly the police, because they have an almost impossible balance to strike if you think about it. On the one hand, the Isle of Man, we advertise ourselves and market ourselves, sell ourselves to the world as this motoring mecca, this petrol-led heaven where you can come, where there's no national speed limit, where we race bikes on public roads at mental speeds, and where you yourself can go on that very same racetrack / public road and, you know, let out your inner McGuinness or Hickman and go for it. And there's no denying that we are selling ourselves as that. There's no way around it, because that's the appeal of the TT, right? You don't come here to ride around the Isle of Man at 40 miles an hour. You come here to open up, to have some fun, to escape the UK police state car biker hunting terrible conditions over there. So we deliberately and fully on purpose sell that. That's the spirit of the TT, okay? Let's call it the spirit of the TT. And the as a whole, not just as the races, but as an event that you come to visit. That is kind of what you as a visitor expect. So we have to live up to that. But at the same time, the police has a duty to keep everyone safe. That's what they're here for. That's their job. I mean, they don't, put on their uniform in the morning and drive around in yellow and blue cars for the fun of it. They have a job to do, and that job is to keep everyone safe. And like I said in my previous videos, it's not just the visitors here. There are normal people, residents, going about their normal daily lives during TT, and the police has the responsibility to keep all of them safe. You as visitors and us here as residents. The people who go to the supermarket or drop their kids off at school, they have the same right to go there and back in one piece and safely as you as a visitor have when you want to come here and enjoy yourself. So there's almost impossible and definitely unique balance that I don't think any other police force will really encounter, certainly not in Europe. Does require us as the people on the receiving end of that policing strategy, so to say, to really have a broader view on things. And I think on balance, funneling all that speed and excitement onto the mountain road, which is basically what they did. Okay, they said, okay, fine, you come over here, you want to have fun, you want to go fast, do it on the mountain. Everything else, just be a bit more sensible. And more sensible means there were 50 and 60 limits, so it's not that slow. Okay, I think that was a good strategy. It definitely worked, as we have seen. No fatalities, fewer crashes on open roads. And it's a good compromise. You can still go 150 miles an hour on your bike if you want to. You just have to go up on the mountain. And then you take a nice, relaxed stroll back, and then you do it all again if you want to. So I think on balance, given the impossible task they have, it's as good as you can make it. It also helps to keep the TT alive for the future, because keep in mind, the more happens, every incident, every fatality, every crash is ammunition for the opponents of the TT. And believe you me, there are quite a few. So we have to be careful as supporters of this event, how we bring this further. And especially now as it's becoming more popular again. I mean, they have plans to grow it like 400% or something crazy in the next decade or something, or the next 5 years or so. So as more people come here, especially people who've never been here, we have to adjust the way things are policed. And the wild times of the 70s and 80s and whatnot, it just wouldn't work anymore. It would kill the event. So yeah, honestly, on balance, I think it's it's all good. Of course, wherever there are loads of people, there are always a few who don't behave on the roads. And in total, if I remember this correctly again, the police issued 223 enforceable fixed penalty notices, of which 159 were for speeding. Of course, not all of them were bikes. I'm guessing the majority were bikes, but there were at least a few that I know that were cars, mainly some of the supercar guys, the group that came over here. Some of them got tickets, basically for blatantly just driving too fast where they shouldn't be driving fast. That's what I meant. All of you will probably have seen, most of you will have seen the picture of the smashed up Ferrari on the mountain roads. That guy got a ticket. Again, like I said in my previous video, you can drive fast here, but if you get it wrong and make an ass of yourself, not only are you going to end up with a broken car, but you're also going to get a ticket for being a dick. So, all in all, I mean, 223 tickets, considering there's thousands of visitors, doesn't sound too bad. I think the record holder, where speeding is concerned, was a guy who did 100 and something, way over 100 miles an hour, in the 50 zone near Kirkmichael one morning. Congratulations, you win the walk of a lifetime, because you're not going to be riding here anytime soon. If you do that kind of thing, you're just an idiot. But most people were well behaved, as you can see. Of course, also where there are loads of people and then alcohol on top of it, there will always be some trouble. And in total, if again I remember correctly, there were 156 arrests during TT, which again, considering there are 30,000 plus visitors here, isn't too bad. Also, the police managed to confiscate £400,000 worth of Class A and B drugs during TT, mostly as part of the border controls. Of course, there's no formal control. You don't have to show your passport when you come from the UK to the Isle of Man. But there are police checks, and what most people don't realize is there's a lot of police intelligence work that's going on. So it's not just the insular Isle of Man constabulary standing here randomly picking out people who may have drugs. No. They do work with UK police forces, and they're quite good at it. And as a result, a lot of drug dealers were busted, and that's good. So overall, really, where policing is concerned, you can say that the strategy they had worked really well. It was a very safe, very well policed, and very reasonably policed TT. I've never ever seen so many pictures of selfies on social media of people taking pictures with police officers everywhere, and the police really being a genuine part of the community. And that is so, especially in today's times, right, where the police isn't always that liked, that popular, and you don't have to look very far to see examples of bad policing. Hello UK. To see that over here, it is still a very community-focused policing, and that they're genuinely out there and they're respected and they're doing a great job. It's awesome, and that's what's needed to keep the TT alive. To be quite honest, we need the police on our side, and we need them to act, the way they do, to be a firm part of this event and this island, if we are all to enjoy it. So, policing the TT, great stuff. Actually, one last thing I forgot to add about policing is the fact that sadly this year we have seen an increase in the number of people who entered closed roads. So as you know from my video, which of course you all watched, you're not allowed to enter the roads when the roads are closed. And it's not, it's not a minor transgression. It's not something, oh, just get off the road, it's fine. It's an offense. It's a criminal offense as far as I'm aware. And you get into trouble for it. And unfortunately, going by the news reports that I've seen this year, more people than usual, or than certainly in past years, were caught or seen entering closed roads during race periods, and that's not a good thing. So, just again to re-emphasize how important it is that if you are watching the TT next year, or the Manx Grand Prix Classic TT later this year, that you do not enter closed roads during racing, not to cross the track, not to pick something up, not nothing. And that if you see someone else doing it, that you shout at them or alert the marshals or whatever. Also, what I've personally seen, and I've seen a lot of reports about and pictures on and videos on social media, is objects falling onto the track. Again, this was something I covered, in my TT Visitors Guide video, where I really emphasized, like, please hold on to your stuff. It's windy here, or if you sit on a hedge and your helmet rolls away, or your beer can, and exactly those kind of things have happened. There were videos about helmets on the track. I think it was at the Craigna Bar. There was a football of all things bouncing down Bray Hill during racing. I've seen, and I've got a video somewhere of a sidecar hitting a energy drinks can, an empty one that was blown around on Grand Country Road, and plenty more incidents like that. And they may seem minor. Well, I mean, a helmet on the road isn't minor, but like a drinks can or something. But at the speeds that the bikes and the sidecars do, if that drinks can that I saw, if that had hit the sidecar's tire, it can shred it, and that can have very, very serious consequences. So yeah, unfortunately there was an increase in the number of people entering closed roads and subsequently getting arrested, and there was an increase in the number of incidents where debris or things, objects found were sort of ended up on the track, which is also not good. So maybe two areas where in the future everyone can place a bit more focus on. But other than that, policing wise, TT was actually good. So that's all for policing now. So hopping into the next topic, and let's make that one media / race organization / organizational bits, because I've heard a few things, seen a few things happen, and I think they're worth mentioning just as a look back. Maybe if you're not a member of the media involved in that, it's not so interesting for you, but I just want to mention it anyway because it's a good place to do so. So this year the TT kind of had a different organizer, and therefore it seemed that the complete media teams, or the people who give out accreditations, the press passes, all that kind of thing, it seems that was a completely new team from what I've been told. I myself, I did not have a media pass or a host media pass or anything like that. I had a race team pass because I was with a team, and I don't ever really have a media pass anyway. I had a few in the past for host media when I worked for the North One guys, but usually I try and avoid it because I don't really need it. Everywhere where I want to go is freely accessible, and one of the reasons I don't actually like having media or photography passes is that there's a risk you end up with the same pictures as all the other photographers because you all go to the same spots because you're allowed to go there, right? If you don't have that, you have to think a bit more creative and be a bit closer to the crowd. So anyway, it seems they had a new team, new media team who managed all these things, and I don't think it was deliberate. I'm sure they acted with the best intentions and tried to do a very good job, but it seems that a lot of the people, media representatives, photographers, videographers, writers, just media types, who had accreditations for years, who have covered the TT for years for photography and whatnot, were turned down this year. I've heard of quite a few who were very surprised. A couple of German guys, well-known guys. I'm not going to name any names, but they are, in the TT circuit. They are known as coming here for many, many years, doing genuine TT photography, doing, the commercial guys. It's their living, and they were turned down. And I know from at least one local guy who was also turned down, who always had press passes and is a very, very good local photographer. And suddenly they, got really strict. They demanded, I think it's £100 deposit for the bib you get, which is ridiculous. It's a piece of cloth that costs £5. But things like that. Then the passes seem to be very, very complicated. The different areas where you're allowed to go. I mean, that was always a bit complicated. You have the different on the back of your pass. It tells you where you're allowed to go. And this time it was overly restrictive. It seemed. I don't quite know why they did that or what kind of model they adopted for that, but it basically left a lot of people unhappy. Now, I think in the same, just as a matter of fairness, I think maybe what they try to do is to attract new talent, new media coverage, further media coverage. I know the Alabama government is trying to grow the TT, as I said before. And obviously growing the TT means, inviting new media partners and new photographers, new videographers, new outlets to cover the event, right? To give us further coverage. And maybe that means that by letting more new people in, they have a limited contingent of what they can allow. And then a few obviously have to drop out at the other end. And it seems that a few of the established guys who've covered the TT for many years, who never had problems getting media passes, didn't get any. and obviously, they are very unhappy about it, and I understand that, but I can also probably understand the other side, that they are trying to sort of get a wider coverage and fresh blood in. If they have to limit the amount of photographers or not, I don't really know. It didn't seem too busy, and I'm not quite sure how many there actually are. It's probably worth looking into. But yeah, there were quite a few unhappy faces around the media office this year, and maybe there are, things and processes where they can look into and see how they can balance the established guys who have an absolute right to be there, who have invested many years and a lot of time and sweat and tears and effort into growing the TT where it is, right? I mean, without the guys who especially without a lot of local guys who come here and feature the TT every year, you probably would hear about it a lot less. It would be a lesser known event. So I kind of think that they should probably try and be fair about that, but that's all I heard. Also, in terms of the race organizers, there were some issues that I heard. Particularly, they had some timing problems, and that left a few people unhappy, where it seems what happened is a few riders were told there was a timing issue, and as a result of that issue in qualifying, you didn't qualify, so you can't race. Obviously, they were down and out, and went, okay, let's pack up, that's that. And only then for a couple of hours before, in one occasion, I know from one case where a couple of hours before the race, they then came back and said, there wasn't a mistake, like, we got your timing, you can race, get ready. And fine, mistakes happen, technology malfunctions, totally understandable, but I think it's something where maybe they need to look into, because the TT isn't a short circuit race. You can't just go to a rider 2 hours before a race and tell them, oh, by the way, you're back in, and then expect that person to instantly snap back into the frame of mind that you need to safely race at the TT. I don't think that is responsible. Maybe they can look at that. But also generally, around the paddock and things, the atmosphere was pretty good. In previous years, you had the odd sort of issue here and there with things like the security, who are, I think, the G4S, they're a contractor, and no offense to the guys, but they act within a certain framework, and that can lead to certain issues when they follow orders, and orders don't make sense in certain circumstances, and then you end up arguing with security. That didn't really happen this year, especially the guys who have the unenviable job to look after parking in Nobles Park, who are out in the sun all day directing cars around, looking for empty spaces and so on. They were, I drove in every day multiple times. They were super friendly, super efficient. They really worked hard, and it's really good. And it's so, if you ever dealt with any kind of security in any environment, may this be here or at the airport or anywhere, you know how important it is that it's a friendly face that greets you, right? And that the organizers, the people who represent the event, who are for many people the first point of contact at the TT. When you come to watch the TT, you drive up to the grandstand, you park there. The first person you really see that you associate with the TT as an event is probably that security guard who tells you where to park. And if that person is friendly and is courteous and smiling, and everything seems well organized, that is a great first impression. And they seemed really, really good and really nice. There were a couple of guys, I saw them every day, and after the 2 weeks, they were sunburned. You could tell they were working hard out in the sun. It might sound like they're only standing around all day, but try and stand around 8-9 hours there in the sun every day, running around looking for parking spaces and things. It's a tough job. Same, security around the grandstand and everywhere seemed generally really nice and friendly and courteous, which was great. Obviously, there are always a couple of exception and maybe over-eager ones. There was one up on the grandstand the grandstand has a area at the railing where you sit, which is reserved for disabled, and it's meant for wheelchairs to be parked, so you can see. They can see right at this, so they're right at the front, right? It's not meant for you to stand, which I understand, but you can certainly walk along there when it's empty. And I was up there one I think it was one practice session. I'm just walking along there briefly, and that guy got all shouty with me that I can't walk along this strip. It's like, okay, he obviously got some instructions and he misinterpreted them. But it shows you how one single person can leave a bad impression. And it was a minor thing, you know, I laughed it off, but it's one of those things where, okay, you know, that can, I have to stop here now, otherwise we're going to have a very embarrassing incident because there is the electric railway passing by. That was the Manx Electric Railway, isn't that nice? You wouldn't believe how many cars get hit by that thing, so I know it's slow and old, but yes, cars do get hit, and it's embarrassing, and I don't want that on YouTube. So anyway, where were we? Oh yes, security. So yeah, they were all, you know, generally really friendly and good. One odd thing happened. I'm literally just driving randomly around the Isle of Man right now. One kind of odd thing happened, and I'm guessing something must have happened with the passes and access. So when you have a race pass, or certain types of passes, but specifically race passes, race team passes, they have a picture on it, the yellow pass, and you're supposed to have your picture on it. Now most teams I know don't bother putting the picture on because other passes that they use, such as the pit pass and start line and those kind of passes, they don't have pictures either. So I don't know why that particular pass needs to have a picture, but you know, other passes that you need to work behind the scenes or get even closer to the bikes at the start line, and that they don't have pictures on it. So most mechanics, when they pick up the passes, they just hang them around their neck and they just walk in and out, and the security sees they have a yellow race team pass, go through the Parc Fermé, go to scrutineering. Why else would you be here, right? And sort of halfway through race week, it seemed to something maybe happened, I don't know, but suddenly they got really strict, and there were two security guys which really made me not laugh. It wasn't funny, which just made me like sort of raise my eyebrows, like, and annoyed a lot of people. And that was at the bottom where you go in to where you go up to Parc Fermé. There's always security to make sure, of course, only the right pass holders can go to scrutineering and Parc Fermé. Totally understand that. But they were stopping guys who, you know, were bringing like the supplies up, like guys carrying fuel cans and tires and pushing the bikes. And they were stopping them, demanding that, you know, to see if their yellow race pass had a picture on it, and if it didn't have a picture on it, they would send them back. Now, who would go up there with fuel cans and tires in his hand, but a mechanic, right? It made no sense. It was just something must have happened. Maybe there was some incident, some theft. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but at that moment, I saw mechanics being turned away just to get a picture for their pass. Apparently there was some woman from G4S who threatened mechanics and people to confiscate their passes, which I don't think they're allowed to do. But you know, there was something weird was going on. The weirdest thing I saw was a second security guard in Parc Fermé, at the entrance to Parc Fermé, checking the passes of guys coming from scrutineering, which is literally next door, and you already need a pass to go there. And he demanded to see their race pass. Now, they also only checked that your race pass had a picture on it. They didn't check who was on that picture. And I know that because I walked in and out there all the time, and I have a picture on mine. But they just, you know, they glanced at it for a split second. There's no way they could have seen. I mean, I could have put, I don't know, a picture of the Pope on mine. Maybe next year I'll do that, right? And they wouldn't have known. So I don't know why that was. It sounded like maybe they got some instructions, something happened, but it was just very odd to see that. And that's the kind of thing, again, that people negatively remember. So maybe there's some, you know, some improvements to be made for the future. Also, what I heard, just to wrap this sort of media thing up, is some of the areas where photographers were allowed before, especially around the grid, start line, pit lane area, that kind of thing. Apparently there were a few angles and positions where when a photographer wanted to go there, he was told he can't go there because it's now for VIPs only. That's of course crap. Fine, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole VIP thing. I'm on record as not being a big fan of TT VIP, but I understand it brings in money and the event is an economic event. It does have to, you know, pay for itself somehow. So fine. But to basically put VIPs, and I have no doubt no reasons to doubt that person who told me that, okay, as someone who I've known for a long time. If VIPs are suddenly put ahead of the people who, you know, work hard to feature the TT all over the world, then we have a problem, because that shouldn't happen. So maybe again there's a need or an opportunity maybe let's call it an opportunity, to sort of review procedures and see that everything works smoothly. But yeah, so I've heard of a lot of unhappy photographers, a few unhappy riders in terms of some of the minor organizational stuff, and a few other issues, but so far not that I've heard anything. If you've heard anything, stick it in the comments. Maybe I overlooked something, maybe I haven't heard something, or send me an anonymous message if you prefer that, because I know a lot of people in the TT circuit and in the attached family, if you want, especially local, they may be reluctant to actually openly talk about negative experiences with the organizers or with the media team, because they're too afraid that next year when their name pops up, they're going to get turned down, that out of spite. I'm not saying that they would do that, but I can understand why they would do it. The island is a small place, everyone knows everyone, and if next year someone in the media team's like, oh, I know that guy, he talked bad about us last year and he's out. So I understand that. Personally, I don't particularly care about that. I try and be balanced. If I should apply for a media pass in future, I don't get it, then whatever. But I have no real plans to do that. I cover the TT in different ways. So what's in store for TT 2023 and the time until then? Well, obviously we have the Southern 100 coming up next. Unfortunately, I'll be off island for that, for business reasons. I do have a day job, and that requires me to travel sometimes, so I'll not be here. I will be back for the Classic TT/Manx Grand Prix, so I will try and cover that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I never really have a plan. Like even for TT, I just wandered out and saw what the day brought. That I found is usually the best tactic, because there's always something developing, some story, something interesting, and you just do that. So I'm definitely going to be out Classic TT/Manx Grand Prix. In the meanwhile, up until TT 2023, I will cover that time with videos about the Isle of Man and the Isle of Man TT. I think I kind of really found my niche with that now, seen from the reactions and the channel growth and the lovely comments from everyone. And it honestly, it really genuinely means a lot to me when people comment and come up to me at TT, or just say something that they watched the video, that they enjoyed it. I don't make money with this, so it's purely out of love for the island and the event, and if I see that people like it, that's great. I love that, so thanks for that. So of course TT 2023, I'll be, well, the time until then I'm going to cover with videos, history of TT, place names. I've got loads of ideas, and there are a million stories to be told about this event, so keep an eye on my stream. As they say, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. God, I hate it when people say that, but yeah, do it. Also, I've got a Facebook page. Search for Amadeus Photography. That's still the old name of it, or Frank Drives is my website. I'll probably post some stuff there as well from other events on the Isle of Man, because there's loads going on outside TT as well. So TT 2023, of course, I'll be out and about again. It looks like TT will be a slightly different format next year. In so far, the biggest change that I have seen, and that has left a few people unhappy, is that they are planning to get rid of Mad Sunday basically and have racing on Sundays. Now, we had racing on Sundays before, but that was only when there was a cancellation on the days before and they had to move to Sunday to get the schedule in. Now they are apparently planning to make Sunday racing a firm part of it. Left a lot of people unhappy. I was like, oh, we want Mad Sunday back. But if we're being totally honest here, we haven't had a Mad Sunday since the mountain was made one way for the whole fortnight. Because Mad Sunday basically meant that for one day during the festival they would close the mountain road and everyone can have a go, and that way it was called Mad Sunday. Now that the mountain road is one way for the whole festival, you can do that every day. A lot of the appeal has gone, and things, as I said in the policing earlier, have become safer and more civilized. So there isn't really a Mad Sunday anymore. Of course, there are still the Mad Sunday events that happen at different places around the island. They may have to adjust then, but to be honest, at least some of the events that I saw, well, certainly I went to Peel to watch Peel Day, as I think you've seen in my video, the purple helmets and stuff. And to be honest, I found Peel Day a little bit meh this year, and I don't think I'm the only one. It was a very strange use of this promenade space. Where the Purple Helmets and Steve Colley were performing, there was very little space. It was very crowded. It wasn't really enjoyable. So yeah, maybe this is an opportunity for the organizers of some of the events to review how they do things, when they do things. Because it seems to happen that during TT you have a lot of events happening on the same day, and maybe there's an opportunity to stretch that out a bit and make it more enjoyable for everyone. A lot of the other events were great, absolutely no doubt about it, and maybe the schedule change isn't as bad as people make it. Let's keep an eye on it. There is a petition out, of course. Whenever something is set to change on the Isle of Man, someone always puts up a petition against it because we don't like change. So maybe they're not even going to go ahead with it. Maybe the schedule stays as it is. We will have to see. Certainly next year during TT I will be out and about, and do feel free to come up to me and say hello, or if you see me beforehand. And until then, I hope you enjoy my videos, and that's probably all I can say for now. One thing maybe worth adding is, in terms of visitor numbers, TT this year didn't feel quite as busy as people had hoped, or as previous TTs. It was certainly busy, but I think maybe it will get busier in future, because the government, like I said, is trying to grow the event, and that of course will mean an increase in tourists, presumably. So yeah, if you want to come, book early to ensure that you get somewhere to stay and that it's as cheap as you can get it. But prices are going up all the time, and as it becomes more popular, prices will go up further. So it's just the way it is. But yeah, so hopefully see you here next year then.